YouTube, it's Kathy, and this is my August 2021 reading wrap-up. If you're not already aware, I do weekly entertainment wrap-ups of everything I read, watch, and listen to, but today we're just talking about the books. Usually August is a great reading month for me, but as you may know, I have been traveling literally since the first day of the month. Between Chad and myself, we've driven just short of 10,000 kilometers during August. We started in Victoria, BC. We're now near St. John's, Newfoundland. The other day we literally went to the most eastern point in North America, and all of that is to say I didn't have a lot of time for reading this month. August is usually like a 26 to 28 book month. This month, not so much. I'm going to start with the nerdy hardcore stats and charts and then get into what I read. I also didn't include my DNF in most of the stats besides the 20 pages that I read from it. Also, I put chapter markers in all of my videos, which are down below, so if there's certain things you want to revisit or skip forward to, feel free to do that. That's what they're there for. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, feel free to do that now and click the bell icon if you want to be updated when I upload. In August, I read 13 books and DNF'd one book for a total of 3,341 pages. That takes into account converting audiobook minutes to pages, so 2,058 of those pages were actually about 59 hours of audio. The age breakdown for these books was 8 adult books, 4 YA books, and 1 middle grade book. I read 11 novels, 1 graphic novel, and 1 novella. This month, the biggest genre chunk of what I read was contemporary and mystery thriller, as well as science fiction, fantasy, and nonfiction. If you adjust by page count, the nonfiction and the fantasy get very wee. Most of these books were from the library, but I did read and DNF a book sent to me by the publisher, 1 I bought on Kindle, a couple from a chain bookstore, and a couple I have owned for ages. I read 7 audiobooks, 2 paperbacks, 2 hardcovers, and 2 ebooks. Most of my books skewed to being on the shorter side, and most were published between 2010 and now. The majority of these books were written by female authors, with a few by male, non-binary, and mixed authors. Most of the protagonists were female, but there was 1 male, 1 dual perspective, and 1 nonfiction that didn't have a specific lead. In terms of setting, it was pretty much the USA show, with a book each from Canada and Japan. In terms of diversity of subject matter, I did a lot better than the last category, with queer books, books about race, feminism, mental health, and 1 translated work. In terms of star ratings, this month I had 1 2-star DNF, 1 3-star book, 2 3.5-star books, 6 4-star books, 1 4.5-star book, and 3 5-star books. Let's start with the lowest rated read and work our way up to the highest, shall we? The book that I DNF'd, that I only read the first 20 pages or the first chapter of, was called Magic by Mike Russell. There's not a lot I can tell you about this because I obviously only read the first 20 pages, but it does have to do with, you guessed it, magic. The first 20 pages or so was kind of an origin story of how the universe came to be and how magicians made more magicians, and those magicians basically made everything that we know. It was an interesting concept, but I really didn't enjoy the writing, and I kept telling myself I should really continue on because maybe just the first section was super weird, but then I found myself not picking up, got to the end of the month and went, I need to officially DNF this. My 3-star read was my graphic novel called What If We Were. This is a slice of life type of graphic novel between these 2 best friends who occasionally play this game called What If We Were. So, what if we were scientists? What if we were superheroes? What if we were this? It's fun, and their conversations are fun because they are 2 very different characters, but it's not anything super remarkable. It is enjoyable, but it wasn't something that blew my mind. On to my 3.5-star reads. I'm mostly going to talk about these 2 together because they are the first 2 books in a very old series. We have The Secret of the Old Clock and The Hidden Staircase by Carolyn Keene. I do this because Carolyn Keene was a pen name for several different writers of this series. If you noticed earlier during my stats where I had those 2 little blips at the beginning of my timeline for a book in the 1920s and a book in the 1930s, that's these books. These are the first 2 books in the original 56-book series. You might know the iconic yellow covers that have been updated over time. And I figured that since the last time I went across the country I was reading these books, I should revisit them while I'm on this road trip. These were fun, quaint mysteries about Nancy Drew falling into these situations where she has to figure out a puzzle and doing so. They are easy reading. Both of the titles kind of give the plot away a little bit, which is the biggest problem I had with them this time around. And I'm looking forward to continuing the series because yes, I do have the other 54 books. On to my 4-star reads, the first one being Too Bright to See by Kyle Lukoff. I listened to this way at the beginning of the month, actually, as we were getting on the ferry to leave from Victoria to start this road trip. This is my middle grade book that I read this month about this kid named Bug who is just about to go into middle school, and their best friend is really getting into the concept of them wearing makeup and gossiping about boys and whether or not they're going to be popular and all those types of things, but that isn't really Bug's thing. In addition to this, Bug's beloved uncle has recently passed, and Bug is wondering whether or not the house is haunted because some weird things have been going on. This was a wonderful coming of age story and I very much enjoyed it. Next we have The Other Black Girl, which concerns Black women working in publishing, which is obviously a very big topic right now, since it's come to light in the consciousness that that industry is very, very white. Our main character in this one is working in a small publishing house. She is the only woman of color at this time, and then another Black woman comes to work at the company, and she's initially very excited about it, and then things take some turns from there. I'm not going to wreck what the twists were for you because it was fun to see those unfold. There were a few things about this where I really appreciated the symbolism that was used. Some of it was a little bit far-fetched for me, but overall I did enjoy it. Next we have Cancel Sean Boston, which I had to pre-order just for shits and giggles because it is written by 2 YouTubers who wrote it while on live streams over the past year during the current situation, and it is about 2 people who end up being YouTubers during this current situation and their rocket to fame after they cancel Sean Boston, who is actually not the greatest dude. This is a dual perspective, so the female character is an artist and she really actually likes Sean Boston until he does something that she cannot get behind. And then the male perspective is a drummer who is kind of out of work, so he's working at bars, and he was the face of a meme 5 years ago that people still throw in his face, and he is super embarrassed by it, so it's really hard to get out there. Around the same time, they both end up making videos about Sean Boston, and from there, their popularity skyrockets, a little bit of a romance ensues. It was a fun time. Honestly, if you want to read something set during the current times, this is a book to pick up. Next we have The Memory Police, which was the translated book I listened to this month. This concerns a woman who lives on an island, and every once in a while a governing body called the Memory Police decides that everybody is not allowed to remember certain things anymore. So slowly, over time, certain things are taken away from this society. Her mother used to have this collection of items that people no longer have access to because they are basically taken away and then people literally can't remember them anymore, but her mother is no longer with her. So it's all about her exploration of what happens when certain things are taken away and how over time it seems to go so slowly, but if you just look at it as the big picture, it's horrific, which is a lot of social commentary in this one very elegantly written book. Next we have Kate in Waiting by Becky Albertalli. I didn't know she was coming out with a new book until it came out. I went into it not knowing anything, and then to find out that it's based around theater and these characters doing a production, I was just super excited because that's my love. Kate and her best friend Anderson are a little interesting in that they always have crushes on the same person. They kind of have this communal crush between somebody who's generally unattainable, and neither of them are really willing to put themselves out there to really do anything about the crush, until they have this communal crush on this boy that they do this production with over the summer, and then he ends up going to their school and being in the theater program there, and then he is just too close for comfort, and they have to figure out whether or not one of them is going to date him, and then what happens to their relationship following that. That's all I'm really going to say about it. It's a complex situation and it's full of these friends just knowing that they are the most important people in each other's lives and then trying to figure out where they go from this situation that they created themselves. I, of course, thought this was absolutely delightful. My final 4-star book is The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey. This is about a woman who works in cloning, and to an extent her ex-husband did as well, and then he left her for a clone of her that he created in secret. Obviously, this is not something she's willing to tell her peers because it's incredibly embarrassing and ridiculous that he did this behind her back. And then one day she finds out from the clone that the clone has accidentally killed her ex-husband, and she decides that she has to help cover up this crime because otherwise the whole situation is going to be found out and she is never going to be able to work in her field of science again. This whole book was just a fascinating thought experiment. I really love seeing the different characters in her life and then also the differences between her and her clone, who is programmed to be a lot like her but not a lot like her. Her husband basically changed everything he didn't want her to be, which is just so unhealthy and the weirdest breakup story I've ever heard. My 4.5-star read this month was The Project by Courtney Summers. You might know that name from Sadie, which was a fantastic book having to do with these two sisters, and this book also has to do with two sisters. This is told in a dual perspective between Lo, a younger sister who was in a car accident that actually ended up killing her parents, and B, the older sister who now has to take care of Lo since the parents have died. We get to see a little bit of what happened around the time that Lo was in the car accident, and then we are rocketed forward about 6 years. Lo is working as an assistant at a publishing house for a magazine, and she hasn't seen her sister in many years because her sister up and joined a cult. Lo is trying to work up to actually being a writer at the magazine, but her boss isn't giving her a chance, and this idea of writing about the cult comes to her, and she does all of this research behind his back. It's an incredibly complex story, and I really love seeing it from these two different perspectives. And there were some twists, there were some turns. I very much enjoyed reading this. I think that anytime Courtney Summers writes about sisters and this kind of familial bond, I'm going to want to read it. On to my 5-star reads, the first one being the one that I finished last in the month, and that's Every Value Break by Peter Swanson. This is about a woman who goes away to her bachelorette party, ends up meeting a guy and sleeping with him, feeling really bad about it, knowing it was a mistake, telling her best friend about it, but not telling her husband-to-be. They then get married, everything is fine, they go on their honeymoon, but then she kind of sees the guy that she slept with in the very remote destination where they're having their honeymoon, and she knows that some shit is gonna go down. What I loved about this one is I couldn't put it down because there were so many twists and turns and you didn't know who you could possibly rely on in the narrative, and I really liked seeing it unfold and seeing the different layers to what was happening in this woman's life. I know there's a chance that this won't be for everyone, just like every other book, but for me, I really wanted to know what was going to happen. The penultimate book on this list is 21 Things You Might Not Know About the Indian Act by Bob Joseph, which even in the text, he tells you that's not his actual name, and that's one of the many things that makes me super mad about being a Canadian citizen. Growing up in Canada, there's different degrees to which you understand the background of how Canada started as a country, the fact that there were Indigenous people here first. We were kind of always taught in school that it was very amicable and they were very nice to us and they let us into their country, and all of these things, which, you know, just are kind of horse shit. There were definitely things in here that I was cognizant of before, but I wasn't cognizant of the exact language used and the purpose behind what was happening. This is a book that every single Canadian citizen needs to read because there are things in this that even if you kind of knew a little bit of the history, you didn't know the full extent. And this breaks down very difficult policy speech into very understandable speech. It also talks about the Truth and Reconciliation Report and the things that we have to be doing as a country to make it better. And yeah, just everyone needs to read it. Go right now. Go get yourself a copy. Do it. My absolute favorite book this month was Dial A for Aunties. This one was just so much fun, and I said it in my weekly wrap-up, if this one doesn't become a movie, I'm just going to be very upset because I need to watch it pronto. This book is about a girl who is stuck in this family business with her mother and her 4 aunties. Basically everyone else in their lives have been cursed to leave, and she decided that she couldn't leave her aunties alone, so she decided she was going to stay. That, however, has had some very big impacts on things that she's wanted to do with her life. For example, she let the love of her life get away, and she hates that about herself. As this book opens, we find out that her mother has actually set her up to go on a date by pretending to be her on a dating site, and because the person that she's supposed to be going on this date with is the hotel manager of the location where they're going to be doing a wedding this weekend, because everybody in the family does different aspects of wedding creation, be it photography or the cakes or the hair or all of that type of thing, it would be very rude and very awkward if she didn't go on the date, so she ends up going. He ends up not being her cup of tea, he ends up being a creep, she ends up accidentally killing him and then needs to call for assistance to get rid of the body. Although I've never seen Weekend at Bernie's, I know that the whole plot of that movie is basically a corpse at a weekend and them trying to move it around so people don't know that this person has died, and that's very much what happens in this, and I just very much enjoyed it. Like I said, I need it to be a movie. There's so much comedy of errors and just little things that break in there, and just all of the aunties sneaking around in the background is just so funny to me, and I just really need it to be adapted immediately. If you want to hear me talk more about these books, or other books for that matter, my weekly entertainment playlist is always linked down below. Additionally, if you're interested in the fact that I am on a cross-country tour right now, that playlist is also down below. I'm putting out about 2 travel vlogs per week. I've got so many in the queue right now. I feel so ahead of the game. It's very exciting for me. If you've read any of these, please let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment but want to make sure that I know you were here, just leave me an emoji or a smiley face if you happen to be on your keyboard. Some people have asked if there's a way to financially support this channel, so I set up a Ko-fi account, which is a digital tipping service. The link for that is down below, as well as a link to my PayPal or my Amazon wishlist in case you would like to buy me a book. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye! It also makes me feel really sentimental that I'm wearing my Booknet Fest shirt, and it was supposed to be this weekend, and it was cancelled for the 2nd year in a row, and Chad and I literally had to leave our passports at home because we didn't want any chance of us thinking it was a good idea to drive down to Florida, because it's a terrible idea to drive down to Florida.